Combining all the games that took us to another place and made us want to keep playing all night. These are the games of our lives.
Welcome everybody to the Games of Our Lives podcast, a podcast where we talk about the games of our lives and how they made us who we are today. Typically a game podcast about games from the past. Today we're doing things about the present, and we're talking about this year, 2023's year in review. My name is Bill the Fajita, and I am accompanied, as always, by the wonderful, the fantastic, the very handsome Badalon.
I was gonna say you can keep going.
Oh,
I'm kidding.
If your eyes didn't stop me. But welcome
Happy
in.
to be here.
Happy to have you. Folks, we are going to be talking about just video games in the year of 2023. Specifically, we each made a top 10 list of our top 10 games. We also made a list of a couple of disappointments and some hopeful things we've got ready for the future of 2024. But before we dive in to what was basically one of the biggest years in video gaming, just period, I say we talk a little bit about the news. Just open with a little news seg.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah. We listen. If we weren't starting with the news, what are we doing with ourselves here? So we're gonna start off first. We've got a couple video game awards that were given out. Two biggies, I feel, that kind of encompassed what this year was all about. We've got the Video Game Awards, which is an annual award show that is hosted by the Keely Jeff himself. And who was the winner of the Video Game Awards this year, Badalon?
In my heart or in reality? Are we talking action games? Are we talking indie game of the year?
We're talking just the game of the year.
Oh, oh God, did I forget? Baldur Gate?
Yeah, it was Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah, Baldur's Gate 3. I was gonna say, like, wait.
Yeah. So that's not a game that I've played. Badalon, is that a game that you've played?
No, that's one of those games. If I had infinite time and less responsibilities, I would have played like crazy.
Yeah.
But I know my limits.
The game looks sick. It looks so good. And IGN released their game of the year.
Ooh, I didn't know that one.
Yeah, IGN's game of the year. It is not Baldur's Gate 3.
Is it Zelda?
It is Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom.
Okay.
So, like, I can respect that.
I can respect it.
Yeah, it's not too bad. In other news, E3.
Oh.
They go.
F's in the chat.
Forever in our hearts, though. E3 had some fantastical gaming moments, many of which involved Reggie.
There's some top tier moments.
I mean, we would not have My Body Is Ready if it weren't for E3.
Seriously,
it's a damn shame, really. But you know, E3, for those unaware, was, I should say, an annual video game conference where all of the who's who in gaming would get together over the course of a week, and they would just make a boatload of announcements, and it was at an expo hall, and people could go and demo some of the games and talk to some of the devs, and it was a whole shenanigans festival, and it was fun. I assume. I never went.
Yeah, that was one of those things I always wanted to do, but
right,
you kind of need a reason to be there.
Usually an invitation.
In order for you to get to the things you want to get to.
Right. Unfortunately, we were way too cool for them. But that is what it is, you know what I'm saying? But E3, gone too soon, or gone maybe just at the right time. It's weird because I feel like there was a skip year between the last E3 and the E3 before it because of COVID year, perhaps.
Yeah, that felt like the decline right there. It felt like that was kind of the nail. Like there are further nails in the coffin later, but that was definitely the first one, if not like the fifth or sixth.
I think it was kind of a long time coming sort of situation because you had Nintendo with its directs, and then Sony had its own state of play, and Microsoft and Square Enix both decided to kind of do their own things. And I really think like the Nintendo Direct is what sparked the downfall of E3 in general. Just the fact that Nintendo would do its own video packages outside of the event
Yeah.
kind of hurt them in the long run.
They kicked those up a lot more once they're. Well, didn't they start them at E3?
They did. They did. I think they, instead of having a stage performance, chose to do a video package instead. And it was one of the smartest things Nintendo ever did.
Yeah. They future-proofed their news.
True. Another big news moment is that the Pokemon Scarlet and Violet DLC, the Indigo disc, dropped this week, where players can continue the story that started with the Teal Mask back a few months ago, see some new Pokemon, and imagine what life as Pauly Shore and Biodome would have really been like.
Oh man, it looks super fun. Ty's been playing it a bunch.
Yeah, are there any Pokemon reveals that you were particularly hyped about?
I didn't know that Hydrapple existed until like it was just there. Like Ty was like, "Hey, look at this thing this person found," and he was like showing me a person he was watching, and I was like freaking out. Or no. That was him right after I found it. I found it from Loxton and Noggin.
Okay. And now Hydrapple is that like just another evolution of Applin?
Yeah, it goes Applin, Diplin, Hydrapple.
Oh, does
The
Diplin
lore for it is so good too.
so does Diplin evolve into Hydrapple?
Yes.
Oh, so it's not like just Applin straight into Hydrapple.
No.
Oh,
The
okay.
thing that's so cool about it is Hydrapple has it like the thing that makes it evolve is it learns Draconic Cheer or something,
Okay.
and it literally calls the other dragons, and then they all share in an apple together,
Oh my god.
and that turns them into a Hydra because now you got a bunch of dragons in one apple.
That's really funny actually. That's super funny.
I think it's amazing.
I like that. Yeah, no, that's cool. I'm excited. I haven't played it yet, but I have it downloaded and I am rearing to go. I'm so ready to play it.
Same here.
And the last piece of news was an announcement from last night. Sea of Stars devs have announced that they are pulling a certain newsman from their game, and that is the completionist is being pulled from Sea of Stars in a future update, given all of the allegations and shenanigans going around with the completionist, which I personally still don't, until we have like every piece of the story. I don't want to bring a hammer down on anybody, but let's just say it's not looking good.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. There are enough people that know enough things that are saying enough that it makes me sad. It's
Right.
like I never want to jump to a conclusion because that conclusion could be wrong.
Right.
And I am someone that appreciated the completionist.
Sure.
So it's a little upsetty, but
Fair.
I mean, my sister also was like, "Oh man,
Yeah, it doesn't look good.
no."
It
I'm
doesn't
like
look
hoping
good.
there's some like magic that happens. That's like, "Oh, sorry, I'm just really inept at explaining things," which is ironic given the fact that his thing is explaining things.
Right.
But it's not looking good.
Well, I guess we shall see, but we won't be seeing much more of him in Sea of Stars, as he'll be replaced by probably me.
Oh, I would love to apply for that position though.
Right? Seriously. But that's gonna do it for the news. and I think it's time. I think it's time to talk about what's really going on here, and that is 2023 in review, the 10 best video games that we played. We each came up with a list of 10 games that we completed. It's not necessarily games that came out this year, but it's games that we completed for the first time this year. Is that about where we're at?
The only thing that doesn't follow that rule is that I have a DLC there, and there was another DLC that was originally on the list. This list has been remade more than once. It was tough. This
I
was the
do have
craziest
DLC
year I
on
can remember
here.
in gaming. Like, it was
Yeah.
absolutely insane. Like, there are multiple lifetime top 5 games that came out this year.
Yeah, no, there's at least 4 games that I think I'm gonna end up playing on an annual or semi-annual schedule moving forward, just because they were
Yeah,
just
it's
so
just
fun,
wild.
so freaking fun. But why don't we kick it off? Battle on, give us your number 10 game.
I'm going to hit you first with an honorable mention because I didn't get to play it yet.
Ooh, okay.
I started it with Ty just because Ty was asking for help.
Yeah.
Honorable mention goes to Born of Bread because I feel like it would have been in the top 10 if I got to play it.
I mean, the game
Um,
literally just dropped in the last like week or two,
yeah,
right?
it was just a couple days. No, it was like a week ago. Yeah.
So that's
Um,
yeah. The
the
game looks
actual number
adorable.
10 game, I can almost guarantee would be higher if I got to actually play through more of it. I only played it for like an hour and a half with Gianna, but Mario Wonder probably
Okay.
would be higher, but
Mario
just because I
Wonder,
didn't really get to play it,
it is
at
on
number
my
10.
list, so we'll talk about it.
Yeah, we'll save it for yours then. How about you?
I did not. You know what? As far as this is what I'll do. I'll say my honorable mention is a couple of games that I had already beaten this year, but that I just love. So some games that I've beaten this year that I've beaten multiple times now, or just didn't make the list. I got Donkey Kong Country 2. I got Final Fantasy 6, which did not make my top 10 this year. But I did beat it for the first time this year. Mega
It's
Man
most
Battle
definitely a game.
Network. What's that?
Most definitely a game.
Oh yeah, Mega Man Battle Network. We've got Inside. Uh, let's see. Played a little Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, and some Lost Kingdoms were some of my highlights this year. GameCube banger, but none of them reached the top 10. So yeah, battle on number 10.
So my number 10 technically is Mario Wonder, even though it should have gone higher.
I mean, given that you haven't played through the whole thing, it makes sense. Makes sense. I have it much higher up on my list. I do have it at the 5 spot, but Mario Wonder, man, it is one of those games that it's not a long game. I think I 100%ed the game in maybe like 15 hours, if that. It's
It
definitely.
definitely breathes life into the 2D Mario, though, in a way that it hasn't in literally, oh God, since like the Wii.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe since like the first new Super Mario Brothers game.
That's what I'm thinking. Because that
Just
they added like ice flowers and a bunch of other things and inclines with ice and all the cool stuff. Yeah,
yeah,
I don't think there was a single Mario 2D game. I mean, Mario Maker changed everything in the sense that now
sure,
you can make Mario levels even if you're not on a computer and hacking. But I mean, the gameplay, the biggest change in 2D happened on the Wii with new Super Mario Brothers, and
right.
then this blew that out of the water in terms of the gameplay changes. Like, it was so cool.
Oh yeah, just the fact that they added badges that gave you like kind of special abilities,
Yeah,
and the musical scoring is incredible. The visuals are fantastic. The fact that each level basically has a unique gimmick, and usually the gimmicks aren't used more than once or twice unless it's like you have an early game gimmick that becomes like much harder in a later level with more
Yeah.
fleshed out uh controls and whatnot. It's really just like, I don't want to say it's a 2D masterpiece, but it's right up, like it is a really well done 2D game.
The controls are amazing, so it feels like by the time I get to the end of the game, I'm going to be saying it's up there. Keep in
Sure.
mind, this is also the first Mario game with the new voice actor,
It's true.
and this is in the same year that the Mario movie came out, which was amazing. So, like, Nintendo
Yeah.
and Mario are just kind of having a banner year.
Oh my gosh, like can we even talk about like how the Mario movie came out this year in 2023 and a Zelda movie got announced for the future? The Nintendo fans are eating right now. And
Oh
anybody
yeah,
saying otherwise isn't paying attention.
that's a lot of copium. Otherwise,
Oh yeah.
I had to remake my list multiple times for a reason.
Yeah, it's so good. My number 10. My number 10 is a game that I know you hold near and dear to your heart, but you may have beaten it in 2022 because it did release you know, fourth quarter 2022. And my number 10 spot goes to an adorable little adventure called Lil Gator Game.
Ooh. Well, I'll save my explanation for when we get there. It is significantly farther up the list for me.
Okay. Little Gator Game. It is a fun little 3D romp where you play as a little gator and you're just bipping and bopping around, solving some puzzles, exploring mountains. It's kind of like a larger scope version of a short hike, another indie game. And it's just a very cozy experience.
It hits me right in the heart.
Oh yeah, it's a feels trip for sure.
But more on that for my higher on the. I almost gave away the number.
Ooh.
More on that when I get to its spot on my list.
All right. Well, what's your number 9?
Number 9, that'd be Death's Door, which also would probably be higher if I finished it. It got interrupted by Tears of the Kingdom, but Death's Door is amazing.
So good. Death's Door's
Which-
a banger.
I started playing that because of you, actually.
Oh man, it is. So
And then hold on,
Yeah.
guess who else I saw playing it, and that's what cemented me buying it, and this is why it felt sad.
Oh no.
The completionist
Oh no.
does
Now-
not change the fact that I love the game. The game is amazing. I'm gonna finish it.
I mean,
There's
Death's Door.
there's so much this year.
It is an isometric kind of. Is it like a Souls like? Would you like a Souls light? Would you call it? Or
The way it plays is sort of like a cross between Souls and Hades,
Sure.
in my opinion.
I think that's fair.
It's not a roguelite,
No, everything
but
is as
it
is.
feels it play like I had played Hades enough in the past couple years that I felt at home playing it because of that.
Right. Yeah, it's a really fun time. The visuals are very almost Studio Ghibli-esque.
Yeah, I think that
Um,
helped a lot.
And the storytelling is really fun, really unique, and
Very
you're
clever.
you're a little crow going around doing crow stuff. I think is the best way to describe it, honestly.
You have to try and reunite souls with, like, there are
Are they some sort of like link to the afterlife or something like that?
yeah, basically you're basically playing the role of the Grim Reaper.
Right.
And it's like a corporate setting though, which is like hilarious. It's like there are people filling out paperwork in like the big office, and there's like frustrated, annoyed crows, and then there's one that's like, I love writing reports. It's so funny. That it just is so good.
Yeah, it's really cleverly written. The environments are really unique, and the characters are just so fun. The writing's great.
You actually care about the characters, but also importantly, they explain why the characters are doing the things they shouldn't be doing that they are doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then you feel for those characters because you're like, I can relate to that feeling because of this other feeling that I experienced. And like, it's nice when games that are, even if they're goofy, when they're exposing these really dark things, like
Right.
there's a character who is basically hoarding souls in pots.
Mm-hmm.
And they explain why. And when you find out why, you're just like, oh man. And oh no, I feel bad now. So you get to do the whole like, I'm the hero, but also it's complicated because I'm not.
Right. But you
It's,
kind of
yeah.
are.
You are, but you're misled by someone.
Yeah,
And then
there's
you were truly the hero because you right those wrongs.
right. It gets pretty deep, and it's a lot of fun. If you haven't played it, it is available on just about every console.
Yeah, I played it
Uh,
on the Switch, so if it worked on the Switch, it'll work on a potato.
yeah, no, I think I played mine on PlayStation, but it's available everywhere, and it's a banger. It's a good one.
All right, what you got?
My number 9 is Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe.
Okay, perfect. I'm just gonna tell you my 8 because my 8 is Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe.
Listen, it was a really fun Kirby game. Like
It's I think better for me than you though because I played it with my kids.
right.
Like Gianna, I played through the entire campaign with Gianna.
Yeah.
And when we were fighting the final boss in the campaign, we died once because I basically had to solo it because Gigi got beat up pretty fast. And, I had been using the healing items to keep her alive during the campaign, but there were too many enemies at once, and she was having a hard time dodging. So then Ty stepped up and was like, I'll play too. And he basically ran around protecting Gigi while I was fighting the boss, and Gigi was hitting everything near her.
So
And it was like this really cool experience because of that.
now my question is, when you play multiplayer, because I only played the single player, when you play multiplayer, does everybody control like a Kirby, or is it like one person's Kirby and everybody else is Waddle Dee or
You
Bandana
have
D?
like one person is Kirby, and then the other person gets to choose between a list of options.
Oh,
If I
okay,
remember correctly, she was able to play as Kirby because she
okay,
liked the abilities. But
yeah,
it was ironically better for her if she didn't because she couldn't lose the ability of like Waddle Dee or Meta Knight.
sure.
So,
Oh, that's cool that you get to
she
play as
did
like
better
Meta
when
Knight
she
and
chose
stuff.
Meta Knight at Al, but when she chose Kirby, I basically ran around like trying to like be a human shield in front of her.
Right.
It was super fun though, and it was the first game that she ever beat.
Yeah.
Like she played what was it? Forgotten World?
Oh,
Forgotten Land? Kirby and
yeah.
Forgotten whatever.
The
I
3D
forgot the
one.
last word.
Yeah.
But she played that with me and got through about half the game, but then it
Okay.
just got difficult for her at the end.
Sure.
But yeah,
I
great
mean,
game. I didn't do the Magalore
I
thing
didn't
yet.
do the Magalore thing either. I don't. I'm gonna have to like return to Magalore,
I'm
just
gonna
to
leave a note to that actually on here. That's in my next year list now.
gotta beat it in 2024. We'll come
I
back to
was
you
about to
guys a
do it,
year
and
from
then
now.
there were a couple of other games way higher up on the list that came out.
Sure. And that's, I mean, that's one of the hardest things is like, it's like, all right, I beat this game or almost beat this game, and crap, there's another game breathing down my neck. Listen, I've got some sentences to say about this exact thing later on in the show. But yeah, Return to Dreamland Deluxe was a remake of Kirby's Return to Dreamland on the Wii, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And
Return to Dreamland was we.
and
That
they
was one
like
of our Youch games. Remember?
it was one of our Youch games.
Youch.
It was a they upped the art style a little bit, and it was kind of like a swept under the rug kind of title. It felt like they were just like, oh yeah, and by the way, here's a Kirby, and moving on, sort of thing. But my number 8 is High on Life.
Ooh,
Now,
interesting.
High on Life was, for what it's worth, a really fun game. At the end of the day, it is a story-driven first-person shooter, written and performed by a lot of the Rick and Morty people. So I mean, Justin Roiland is like the main voice person in that game, but there are a ton of other people, including like Tim Robinson, and it really is just like a very funny, absurd, well written game that, you know, really only takes about 20 hours. You don't get too bogged down with combat or anything like that. And it is just kind of a fun little one-off, weird, bizarre adventure. And it was on Game Pass. It was free. Like, how could I say no?
I had never played it, but I saw gameplay of it, and it was one of those things that felt like a fever dream, but it was a game.
Absolutely is a fever dream.
It felt sort of like Psychonauts in some ways.
I mean, if Psychonauts was a first-person shooter, and
I'm saying the writing in certain spots felt like Psychonauts.
the writing is very silly, and like Psychonauts, the game is very narrative driven. So there are a handful of parallels there. And yeah, I think that's pretty apt actually. But it was a fun time. I mean, I know that there have been like allegations against Justin Roiland, and he is like he ain't even a part of Rick and Morty anymore.
Yeah, that was a pretty unfortunate scenario.
Yeah, so if you don't want to support a game like that, that's totally understandable. But you know, there were a ton of other voice actors who were involved and other writers and stuff. So if you still want to support the work of those other people, and listen, once you get the Tim Robinson gun, it's all over. He's the best. It is genuinely one of the funniest characters I've ever seen in my entire life.
That was what I wanted to like check the game for, because I heard about that and I was like, this sounds really ridiculous. I need to see what this is. And it was just as ridiculous as I was expecting it.
Yes, it's so good. It's so stupid. I love it. I love it. Babylon, your number 7 game of 2023.
So this one feels like, this whole list feels like in any other year these games would have been top 5 at least.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like actually insane. 7, I have the Metroid Prime remaster.
Ooh, okay.
It was so good. Like, and again, another game. I got mostly through the game, and then it got interrupted by another game. There were no breaks this year in that. Like when I had to stop playing games this year because of moving or whatever other thing, I just was like, I'm gonna fall behind, and I've never felt that feeling really. It's wild, yeah. They did an amazing job remaking the game. It is. I don't care what anyone else says. There are a lot of good-looking games on the Switch.
Sure.
I think Pikmin 4 and the Metroid Prime remaster are the 2 best-looking games on the system, and I don't think it's close.
I mean,
they're gorgeous.
They are gorgeous.
I don't know how they managed to do it, but the Prime remaster looks amazing. And they did this cool thing where they added a couple of quality of life features.
Yeah.
But they also added extra buttons because the controller can support that now that they have 2 L buttons and 2 R buttons.
Oh, okay.
Like they added a button to jump when in the morph ball so that you don't have to use the bomb.
Oh, that's nice.
Which makes sense because you could do it in other Metroid games.
Right.
So it was really cool, and I had never actually played through Metroid Prime because when I first attempted it, I was like really, really bad, and I didn't get very far, and I got lost.
Right.
And then I put it down, and I came back like half a year later and didn't remember anything I had done, so I just gave up. I was playing through it on PC on an emulator, and then the emulator, like when I was transferring things from computer to next computer, the file got corrupted.
Okay.
So I stopped playing it again. And then it came out for the Switch. I was like, oh, thank God. I can actually play it through it this time.
Let's go.
It's so good. It's so good.
So it's the whole trilogy in one game. Is that correct?
No. So this is actually just Metroid Prime 1.
Just Prime 1. Okay.
I think it released for like $40 or something. I forget.
Okay.
But
I've heard
so
nothing
good.
but incredible things about it.
Yeah, they nailed it. This year had a couple of remakes, spoiler alert, that did exactly what they need to do to make the games amazing.
Sure.
Can't wait to talk about that one at number 4.
A little preview, okay. So that was your number 7.
Yep.
My number 7. I'm surprised it's this far down the list.
See, it's like I said.
Pokemon Scarlet and Violet,
Really?
number 7. And I'm going to say this is DLC included at this point. Just so I'm not taking up 2 spots or whatever. I'm gonna say,
No, this is pretty funny because guess what my number 6 is?
is your number 6 Pokemon Scarlet Violet?
Yeah,
Hey, let's go!
this is weird.
Now, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet did launch in November of last year, but you know, it's such a long game that by the time I got around to finishing it, it was already 23.
Yeah, same here.
I've only completed the first DLC so far, but I mean,
New one is good. I've watched Ty playing it, and
yeah,
there have been so many times where I'm sitting at my computer doing work, and I turn to the right, and Ty's like popping off in his chair because some cool thing just happened, and this is just in the past couple days. So
I mean, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet is Generation 9 of Pokemon. It is the first truly open world Pokemon game that exists. And
almost
I mean, right? What are we saying? Like minus
the level gating doesn't exist, and that
sure, but that doesn't
it's
make
open
it
in the
not
sense that
open
you can go
world.
wherever you want, but
Right.
it's not open in the sense that there's no level scaling. So like you don't actually get to pick what order you go in unless you over level to the point where you're no
Sure.
longer actually trying in the rest of the game.
Right.
Like I accidentally did the what's her name? The fire car lady. Mellow?
Why does Melia pop in my head? But
I think it's Mela.
okay, Mela. But she's the
I did hers in the wrong order, so I had to level
fire
up to
team
beat
star.
hers, and then I found the other ones that I was like quote supposed to go to, and I just annihilated them because I was
Steamrolled
like
them.
now 4 levels higher.
I mean, that I tend to agree. I think that the leveling system is probably the biggest flaw of the game. And
That and the graphical issues and the performance issues. What's that? You're gonna go to the lake? No, you're not. You don't want to go back there ever again.
listen. Despite everything, the core gameplay loop of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet was phenomenal.
Oh yeah,
In my
this was the
opinion.
best Pokemon in my opinion since Ruby Sapphire.
I think it is almost as good as Pokemon Legends Arceus. I think
Oh, I mean like
Legends,
core game. Yeah, Legends Arceus was my favorite Pokemon game
yeah.
since Silver.
But yeah, no, this is a really fun core game. I mean, the Pokemon design's insane. Just the concept that it is open world and there is all this stuff that you can explore, I think is a really big step forward for Pokemon, despite the fact that they won't employ more than 7 people at a time to make sure that
They're just a small indie company. Give them a break.
We're just a multi-billion-dollar indie company. We're just little babies. Ooh, don't.
Listen, we're just little babies with the most popular media on the planet. What's that? We knock on the door of Disney and they get anxious?
Right.
No, but we're babies.
We just little guys.
This is what Pokemon views themselves as right here. This little whooper, that's them. They're like, oh, I'm a little whooper. I'm not gonna harm anyone. And then it turns into Clodsire and poisons you.
True. That's
You're like, how did that happen?
It's.
They hit you with Earthquake or something. Who knows?
But I mean, like, if any company follows the traditional Nintendo 90-10 rule, it is the Pokemon company.
Theirs is like
they're like the 70-30
They're
rule.
like the 75-25.
Yeah, no, like where they're they do a lot good, but the things that they do wrong are just such head scratchers. It's just
like this didn't need to happen, but it did happen. Why?
like one of the coolest features is terror raids in this game. And
the performance is horrible.
Where you and 3 other Pokemon trainers can fight against a giant boss Pokemon, and it's such a broken experience where like everybody's time is desynced, nobody's attacks matter unless they do, and even then sometimes they still don't, despite what the visuals will tell you.
Right.
And
Then there are the times where they were like, "Oh, by the way, we forgot to actually make sure the abilities work properly in these battles. Oopsie." Also, what's that? You can't select an option. Well, you're going to have to sit there and eat your timer for the next 15 seconds. By the way, yes, the timer is going to be eaten for those 15 seconds. No, you didn't get to make any choices. What's that? You decided to go online and you're playing with 5-year-olds? Have no idea what they're doing? Sure would suck if we didn't scale. Oh, we didn't scale. Oh, it's a 4-star raid? And wow, look at that. Someone brought their starter and they're dead. Oh, what's that? You lost time because like it's a long list, but it's amazing. I don't understand it.
yeah, I that, come on, Nintendo. I mean, come on, Pokemon Company. There's one gripe. So one of the more common gripes that I hear about game is that they don't treat shinies the same way they're treated in Pokemon Legends Arceus, and weirdly enough, that's one of the hills that I'm like, I actually don't think that that's as big a deal because one, they were made by two different teams, and two, it's like you still can see the shinies in the overworld, so it's not that tragic of a downscale from like how it used to be.
Most of them you can see.
Right, right. Some shinies are just the same color, just 1% different. But but
But they built in stuff to make sure that you didn't accidentally kill it. Like I
right.
found one of the shinies that I naturally caught because I was just doing auto battles and having my Pokemon go annihilate things for experience and items and whatever. And then it was just still there and I was like, why aren't you fighting it? And I sent it back and it just walked over and just stood there staring at it. And I was like, why? Oh, it's a shiny.
Right. And the fact that the game lets you like save before you encounter and when you reload it'll still be there. I think that's like really smart. Um
Yeah. They
and
built that into the game. That was not an accident.
and let's be real. The game gave us Larry. And Larry
And
is
and
one of the
and it
goated.
also gave us a number of other characters that were funny, like legitimately fun characters. Like I think Penny was a cool character. I think Clavel is amazing.
Clavel's great. Clavel's a great
He's like,
character.
it was me all along. Oh wait, sorry. Are you killing me? Oh, okay, it wasn't me.
Clavel's the guy.
Who else?
He's
Like,
him.
I thought Gita was funny because her sister is like, I'm the best actually, but I refuse to go do that. Like, paper push. I'm gonna go become the best fighter in the world, baby.
Right.
Like, Nimona is amazing. As far as like your partner person goes,
Mm-hmm.
like she was like an actual person. Then you got Arvin in like the saddest story ever, which became
Oh
the
my
happiest
god.
story ever.
Art
And Rostiff is just such a good boy.
I totally forgot about Arvin for a second, but oh my god. What
See,
a
there are enough characters where all of them are currently populating your thoughts.
right, right.
I can't remember the last time that happened. Name
And
another game.
and like
Sword
just
Shield, you got like Rose and his brother Peony, and then you have Peonia or whatever the daughter was named. But like, I didn't care about the majority of the characters in that game
I
except for
I still don't even care about Leon.
I thought Leon was cool.
Like he's cool, but that's
His hat, the planning. Come on, his hat is a crown.
yeah. But I mean like Sword and Shield
And
was kind of like people
you know,
dog
you
on
got that
Gen
pose.
9 as if Gen 8 wasn't also trash. Outside
I
of
I'm one of the few people who actually thought it was better than my initial thoughts. But that is for a different video, different time.
uh by the way, I'm going to bake in the DLC to my Pokemon Scarlet and Violet answer. And the first set of DLC was a lot of fun. I just want to say the Teal
Yep.
Mask was just a really fun little like 6 to 10 hour adventure. Introduced a handful of new Pokemon, and some of the characters there were really interesting.
Yeah, I also like Ogerpon. Ogerpon is my favorite legendary in a while.
Yeah, Ogerpon's adorable. All right, so that's your number 6 is Pokemon Scarlet Violet. My number 6 is Psychonauts 2.
Oh, good. I was hoping this made the list.
Yeah, oh yeah. Psychonauts 2, another game that came out technically, I want to say last year. But it is the sequel to the game Psychonauts that originally came out, I want to say on the PS2 back in like 2003 or 4, something like that. And it picks up right where the game left off. It is a like direct sequel that takes place like 10 minutes after the first game ends.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and you know, it has a lot of the returning characters. There's a bunch of new characters. It is a 3D story-driven action adventure platformer with some subtle collectathon things to it, and instead of an open world, there are just like a handful of themed worlds that exist that have different gimmicks, and you're going
That's
around.
in line with the first.
I'm sorry?
That's in line with the first.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's totally in line with the first. Like there is a for example, early in the game, one of the uh minds that you enter is a an administrator's mind, and you think like at first the whole thing is like a hospital administration situation, but then you actually break this character's brain and they become a gambling addict. So it becomes a casino hospital that you're running around in.
That's hilarious.
It is actually what, and then to break into like a mind safe, you have to like go through the different parts of a dice or of a die rather, and like you have to do like all 6 sides, and each side is like a different little puzzle or area to explore.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it is really fun. They also have one mind that you go into that is like a like just like a game show, like a cheesy like 80s game show, and it is very just silly and absurd, and it is just one of those games that is just super unique unto itself, doesn't take itself too seriously, and is just worth the 25 or so hours that you spend in it.
Yeah, Psychonauts one of those games that I've always wanted to play because it just looked so cool. I remember, who was it, Griffin Lobster?
Oh yeah, it's like one of his favorite games.
I remember seeing that a long time ago because of him.
Yeah.
And then I watched you play the OG on stream,
Yep.
and I remember being actively involved in like helping backseat when you wanted backseat help, because I was like, this game is so cool.
The game is really cool, and the game, like the first game has like a little bit of like brokenness to it, but I mean it was a platformer from 2002 or whatever, so
Yeah, aka one of the many that had that problem because they all did.
right, exactly. And you know, this one actually like doesn't have that much brokenness in it, but it's still like flexible enough where you can pull off some shenanigans and you feel really cool about it. So
I'd like to see a speed run of it. I'd be curious to see.
yeah, that would be a lot of fun. Now, Babylon, we are halfway there. Are we living on a prayer with your number 5 pick?
Honestly, yeah. So for 5, I have Lil Gator Game.
Yo! That game's adorable. We talked about it a little bit.
Okay. So
yeah, let's hear your story.
the premise of Lil Gator Game hits me in the heart so hard. Probably because I'm a dad, it hit me in a special way. It got me in my feels. So Lil Gator Game is you're a Lil Gator, as the game's title implies.
Sure.
And you're like in the forest, and your sister is home from college, and she is also a gator, and she's like sitting on like a bench with her laptop doing work, and you want her to play with you, and she's like, no, sorry, I'm too busy, but she's like really nice to you.
Sure.
And you're like, all right, well, how am I going to get her to want to play with me? And like one of your friends goes, we just got to make the coolest game ever, and then she'll play. And you go through like all these different areas and help all these other kids out with their problems to try and like get them to go to your place. Like you're making this playground into the playground where they're like, you start building things, and it basically turns that place into like pretend land. And you go through and you do all these things to try and get her attention, and it never works, and you get to the end of it, and then there is a section at the end, spoilers if you haven't played it, sorry, earmuffs, where you relive a bunch of your memories from when you were younger, and you start seeing how your sister was involved with what you're doing, and like the character finally gets the fact that this is really important, and she gave you all these amazing experiences. You have to be thankful for the fact that you got these things. Not everybody does.
Right.
And your character finally is just like accepting it, but sad. And finally, you get through all of that. And at the end, she's like, you know what? Okay. And she puts the laptop away. And like it basically ends with her walking back with you to go play. And I literally sat there like, don't cry. Don't cry. Don't cry. Don't cry. Don't cry. Oh, fine. You win. Yeah, it was amazing. I played through it with Gianna. Tyler played through it. They had a blast. Um, it's such an amazing game. I love it. It feels great to play.
Yeah,
You
the controls
can
are super
there's an
responsive.
item you get later that will like help you find all the stuff you're missing. 100% of that game, and it was fantastic. It just feels so good to run around too. The physics are so good.
It's just fun to
Great.
explore that area. Like just the area of Little Gator Game. It's just really well and really well done and like really thoughtfully done.
Yes, it was very intentional, and it didn't hurt that it was published by Platonic and Friends.
Love it. Love it.
All right, so what you got at 5?
My number 5 game. We did talk about it a little bit before.
Ooh.
It is Super Mario Wonder.
That's probably where it would show up on my list if I had actually gotten through it.
Super Mario Wonder. I mean, we talked about it a little already, but you know, it is your classic Mario romp where you're playing through, 8 worlds as not just Mario, not just Luigi, but also Princess Peach and Daisy and Yoshi and Toad and other Toad
Nabbit.
and Toadette and
And
Nabbit.
Nabbit.
And you just get to go through and you get to play the dang game. Yeah, you do have your desert
The
world.
Wonder Seeds are what really do it, though.
You do have your ice world. You have your lava world. You have your poison world, which poison world has been a thing with Mario games like since, I don't know, like 2000. There's always been like a
Yeah, really,
poison
since
world.
New Super Mario Brothers, it's been in everything.
Yeah. But
Even in the Paper Mario games.
despite all the familiarities, the Wonder Seeds really make every level feel so different. Whether it changes the perspective of Mario, whether it makes the enemies do something different, whether it makes Mario a stretchy guy. I mean, heck, one of them lets you swim in lava, for goodness sake. But
yeah, it's so cool. I think short period of time I played it, the coolest one I experienced was where you're running through the trees.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to collect all the like purple coins or whatever, and you're running through the trees to do it.
Yeah.
I was playing it with Gigi, and I was like, "Come on, G, we gotta go, let's go!" And she's like, "Ah!" She's like running around, falling off of everything.
Oh my gosh!
And we like just barely made it, and she was so excited. Like there are very few times where she's had that like excited look on her face, where she's like, yeah! And like, she won't be able to do that for the whole game. She couldn't do it for the whole game. There were a bunch of other levels where she was like, "Can you just do this one by yourself? Because
Right.
this is hard." But it was so cool. It was a great experience.
Oh, it's so good. Like just in like the second level of the game, I think is just like a perfect, just like example. The second level of the game, the Wonder Seed, turns the game into a musical, where the piranha plants literally start singing a song, and you're trying to navigate the level while they're kind of walking around singing. The most hilarious aspect of that is you can actually kill the piranha plants, and the vocal tracks will stop if you kill the piranha plants.
In my playthrough,
which
and
is
I was like, "Oh,
so funny." It's such like a cute like touch. It's like it's just like everything about Mario Wonder is just like good vibes, and it's just good Mario design, and it's just a great late Switch era Nintendo game that just knocks it out of the park.
Yep, that sums it up.
Number 4.
All right, now I think our top 4 might be the same.
Is our top 4 the same? Do you think it's gonna
I,
be in the same order even?
that's what I'm wondering. I'm curious to see. All right,
All right.
fourth place for me, and this is weird for me to say this because in any other year it probably would have been first place.
Yeah.
It's the Mario RPG remake.
Okay. Okay. That's not my number 4.
Interesting. Okay, so I'm gonna save it for whatever number it is for you then.
Okay. Okay. You know what's messed up?
What's that?
You know what my number 4 is?
What's that?
My number 4 is the IGN Game of the Year.
That's my number 3.
Zelda Tears of the Kingdom.
Okay, I think we're
It's
talking about Tears of the Kingdom first. Then.
Yeah, let's talk about Tears of the Kingdom. Man, that
Is your 3 Smurpig?
my 3 is not Smurpig.
Oh man, so it got up there.
Yeah, it hit me.
Okay,
It hit me
okay.
in a special place.
So Tears of the Kingdom, of any game I've played, the only game I've ever had a bigger like, wow, I can't believe this is real moment was Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
There was never another game when playing it where I had a bigger like, I can't believe this is possible. This is so amazing. Like the opening to Breath of the Wild, I literally was in awe and wonder. I feel like Tears of the Kingdom doesn't get to number 1 because of Breath of the Wild, as weird as that is.
I think people are going to eventually look back on the Breath of the Wild arc saga, if you will, of Zelda.
Those two games?
And you know they both do exploration so differently, despite being such similar games, and it really it's
I feel
just
like early Tears of the Kingdom, once you get through like basically tutorial, because the tutorial part definitely was better in Breath of the Wild than in Tears of the Kingdom.
right.
But following that, the open world part I think was better in Tears of the Kingdom because of the Ultra Hand mechanic. And Tears of the Kingdom also had the Ascend mechanic, and between those two things, you could basically do whatever you wanted if you figured it out. And
You could
that
break the game a
was the
lot
best
easier too.
gameplay loop I have ever experienced. I have never had more fun ever. Pretty much, except for playing Smash with my family. I have never had more fun playing a video game than I did while playing Tears of the Kingdom. But there were some moments that were like, I'm gonna try and 100% this game, and there were some things that were just really obtuse for no reason,
Or
and there were some things that were really frustrating for no reason. What do you mean the stupid thing, the cart is wobbling and I have to start all over again? There's a Gleeok over there. I have to fight a Gleeok in order to do this? Is that what you're telling me, game? I have to go fight a boss that I definitely don't have the tools to kill right now?
I feel
Fine,
like
I'll come back later.
so just taking a step back real quick. Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is an open world experience where you play as Link to save Hyrule, and the map is quite literally 3 times the size if you take into account the sky and underground areas of the map of Hyrule in comparison to Breath of the Wild. You know, how much actual content is on those 2 extra layers? You know, I don't think it's as much as it could have been, but given like the scope of the game, it's still insane. I feel like Tears of the Kingdom it's one of those games where you go from I'm a scared little baby to I am God.
Yes, and you can do that really fast if you know what to do, which I
And
did.
once it's like a switch that flips too. Like you go from scared little baby to I am God in a very short amount of time when that change happens. And when that change does happen, I think it does hurt the overall game itself. Just because,
Yeah, certain things just felt like they were too easy at a certain point.
right, and a lot of things, I don't want to say they become skippable, but for example, I saved one of the dungeons for last, and using the tools at my disposal, I was able to cheese my way through the entire dungeon and not necessarily play it the way the game intended me to play it. And you're able to like skip a lot of puzzles just because you're like, well, why would I waste time thinking about a puzzle when I can just make a hover bike stupid and
Or
fly to where I have to
alternatively,
go?
my preferred method, you have given me all of these items to do this thing, and I have to get up that wall. All right, we're gonna ultra hand that up into the air. We're gonna make it fall, and the rest of the pieces are now a ladder.
Right.
And oh look, we're gonna rewind that. Reverse, reverse, and then you just fly up into the sky and jump off of it. And you're like, that was a nice puzzle that I didn't do.
Right.
And like they knew that. Like in the interviews, Aonuma even says like, we're aware that people are gonna play through this very differently than we intended them to. And normally that's something that makes us upset. But the whole point with this game was, what can people come up with?
Right. And I mean, you still see it today. There's a huge subreddit community dedicated to all of the god hand, ultra hand things that you can do, called Hyrule Engineering, and people are creating these absolutely incredible creations using not only the pieces that are given to you, but pieces that players decided, we're gonna take these pieces that are normally stuck in a specific spot, we're gonna break them away from their original locations,
Yeah,
and
they found some really interesting ones. My
and
favorite, I
they
think,
have
is
bizarre
probably
physics.
the remake of the 1950s mobster car, where they mounted guns underneath
Oh my god, that's so
the
funny.
doors that could open and close,
That's so good.
and they rigged it so that when you jump out of the car,
Hmm.
it basically turns into like a tank.
Oh, that's so
Also,
good.
Zoe sighting. Where'd you go, cutie? Anyways, she's somewhere. But yeah, no, amazing stuff. I just think that with the lengths you have to go to in order to do all the stuff, like normally that I eat that up, but there was so much of it
So
that
much.
and some of the tasks that you have to do are so large for such a little reward.
Hmm.
And there are a lot of things that are like not explained at all that like in a sense it's good for them to give things where like you just have to figure it out.
Right.
But some of the solutions to those you just have to figure it out things are like absurdly specific and ambiguous too.
Or
Where it'll be like I'm thinking of like the Thunder Ruins stuff where it's like, all right, to get this piece, you need to go to where there's a serpent with its tail. And I was like, I found two things that look like a serpent with a tail. They're right next to each other. I need to hit a specific block with a specific thing in a
right.
specific way. And I went to the wrong one first. And I sat there and I sat there and I sat there and I sat there and I sat there. And then I found the second one and I was like, oh, well, this can't be it because that wasn't, but I'll try it. And then it was it. And I wasn't like excited. I figured out. I was annoyed. I was
Right.
like, why was it this one? This looks less like a serpent to me. And then I flew up just to see, and I was like, oh, from the aerial view, this one looks much more like a serpent.
Right.
What? Why is that the way? I'm on the ground when you gave me this challenge. I'm not in the air. If I was up on a platform or something, I'd be like, all right, I
And
got to
not
go
for
glide
nothing,
around
but
and figure this out.
because of the way the trees work, it's like even if you look at the map view, it doesn't necessarily look like a serpent with the trees in the way on the map. So it's
Right.
like,
Which was, I think, on purpose, but I was trying to use the map,
right.
and it didn't help. So
Right.
that, I
And
don't know. There's just like, there's enough things that were a little frustrating
sure.
or that felt just unnecessarily tedious, while also being the best gameplay I ever had, like in my entire life, pretty much.
Sure.
I don't know. It was weird.
I mean,
Usually you don't get a game that has such like internal polarizing feelings.
it's bizarre because like the game gives you the tools to be your own boss. But it's like they almost give you too much freedom, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. And like I'm, like a wise, uh, insane person once said, "No one man should have all that power." And
Yeah. Thank you, Yuzi, for your support. Also, yes. Yeah, I mean, I didn't build any of like the god machines because I watched people do that and then just stand there and like deuces and then just walk and do whatever they wanted while the machine killed everything.
I mean, but not for nothing, but even the hover bike, the
Oh, the
fact
hover bike, no, the hover bike
it
you
is
needed the hover bike.
the hover bike just breaks the game, in my opinion.
See, I disagree on that one.
The hover bike
If I didn't have the hover
makes the
bike,
game respect your time more.
I don't think I would have wanted to finish the game if I didn't have the hover bike.
That's fair. But
Because
the hover bike might
there's
be the
so
reason.
much space to move around. And the truth is, the hover bike is just a more efficient version of something that they give you schemas for.
Right.
Like they give you what is it? It's
The
the
building
wing
recipes for
with the fans.
right.
There's a name for it. I'm forgetting the name of it. But they gave you that. It's like the fan flyer or something, where it's 3 fans on a wing.
Sure.
And it does the exact same thing, just slightly less effectively and for more resources. And like the resource management just becomes a time sink as opposed to an actual like there's no skill component to it anymore because once you can fast travel, you can just go to those places and get whatever parts you want by just looking at the ones that have the highest odds of dropping you those pieces.
Right.
So like it's just a time sink at that point. You just have to go and drop enough charges to do that, and if you don't have charges, then you have to go find things to kill that drop charges, and then like the Zonite robots or whatever they're called.
This game was also it had much more resource management than Breath of the Wild. And
Yeah, because you were fusing things.
right, because you're fusing things, because you know of the new mechanics. And I think partially that's why I almost prefer Breath of the Wild a little bit more, because you have a little less to work with, but
You
everything's
can't become God that fast. Like being
right.
like once you
That
kill a good boss, every boss afterwards
is a
you
joke.
can kill and then take their stuff, and like it needs to be that way or else you run out of stuff to fuse that's worth fusing. Like that's the game's system for being like, listen, I know you used a bunch of resources, but listen, you got a better resource now.
Right.
um i I think ironically the game would have been better if there was less to do and it was shorter,
I mean,
because having the completionist run of it require you to do so many big things that used up so many resources that were so oddly specific. It like almost requires you to go god mode. So, I don't know. It's
right.
like it is like the best game, but also not. And I don't know how to
It's
explain it better than that.
yeah, you have a ton to do, and at some point the game does become just checking boxes. And I
Yeah.
think that's where you sort of lose that in the game, where Breath of the Wild didn't have as much of that box checking. Like it still had some, but like traversal is a lot more difficult in Breath of the Wild. Um, you really were taking your time a lot more in that game,
Yeah.
because I mean your fastest mode of travel was in a lot of instances riding a horse, which is you couldn't pay me to ride a horse in Tears of the Kingdom. Just it
It's too slow.
yeah, I got faster ways to go about doing stuff.
But you also have so many more things you have to explore in Tears of the Kingdom because you've got the
Or
sky, you've got the under whatever it's called, I forgot already.
the depths.
Yeah, the depths. And then beyond that, you also have caves. And the
Right.
caves I thought were really cool,
The caves,
but it was
yeah.
really frustrating that there was a, by the way, you have to find every single cave and this hidden thing inside every single cave. that was, I think, the moment that really broke me, and like my enjoyment of the game was the Froggle gems.
Yeah, the bubble gems.
Because I did it. I turned Home Dog free into what he wanted to be. Also, that the way that ended just felt sad.
It did kind of feel sad.
Like I'm like, I achieved this thing. All right, he's gonna be so. Wait, he's not him anymore.
Unfortunately, he did get real heated and commit. And
He went full unicorn,
he
like
went
literally.
literally he went full unicorn, and that was it. It was over.
And then it just ends, and you're like, what? There were a number of moments like that where you do a thing, and then you're just like sitting there staring at the screen, like,
Yeah, the rewards aren't always worth the effort in a lot of instances, and I will say the final boss fight is insane. It might be the best.
That boss fight was amazing.
Might be the best
final
Ganon
boss
fight.
sequence. The final boss sequence was the best final boss sequence in any game I've ever played.
It is the best Zelda Ganon fight ever, in my opinion. It is just really good. But both, like, if you take into account both forms, like, it is so awesome. The fight is insane. The cinematics are wild. And
when Ganon dodges your attack for the first time,
oh,
that was the biggest moment I've ever experienced in a video
that
game.
immediately took me out of God
chills.
mode.
I was like, oh my god, I'm dead.
I escaped God mode and went back to I'm a little baby mode immediately.
And that's why the game is like the best game ever, because you have moments like that where you really like you experience things outside the screen.
Yep.
Right? Like when you do the Yiga stuff and you like sneak your way through, and then you have to do all the battles and stuff, and you work your way through that. That, like, the feeling you get from that is amazing. And you're going through and you're flying around doing all these challenges, trying to do the thing for the newspaper, and you're like, you get to meet your buddy Bird who's like, hey, and then you're like flying around doing all these things, like, this is amazing. And then you go to the depths and you're like, oh my god, all right. Where is that last light route?
And a lot of the depths, unfortunately, like, there's not a ton of content in the depths. Most of the time,
empty space.
A lot of the time you spend down there, you're either looking for a specific enemy for a specific part, or you're going from light route to light route just so it's not pitch black down there.
Also, you have to climb 30 feet, but the only way you can do it is if you shoot arrows so you can see where you're going. Oh, by the way, now that you're climbing, and you've been climbing for literally 4 or 5 minutes now, you can't see anymore because your arrows don't reach that high. Hopefully you find a way to cheese the wall so you can run to recover your energy, which I got really good at doing. It was like, there's a slight incline there of a couple degrees. We're going to let go and we're going to run diagonally, and we're going to get some energy back, and then we're going to grab, and then we're going to run back the other way diagonally and grab, and we're going to go.
I just ended up building a bike and throwing a big light route onto the bike, and then just biking around with a gigantic light route on the bike. Which did...
I couldn't keep it balanced when I did that.
It is a little bit funky. The balancing is a little weird for that, for sure.
But yeah, best game and not at the same time, and I don't know how to describe it.
It's such a bizarre game, because I don't even know that, like, it'll go down it'll still go down as one of the greatest Zelda games of all time, obviously.
It's probably third place in my book.
It might be number 2 behind Breath of the Wild for me right now.
It's either second or third. It's tough.
What's your other Zelda that's right on there with you?
I mean, Breath of the Wild is number 1.
Yeah.
But I like Tears of the Kingdom more than Breath of the Wild in so many ways too. It's just so weird.
It's bizarre. There are instances where, while yes, it is a full-fledged sequel, there are moments where it's like, this just feels like more of Breath of the Wild. And I think that does hurt the experience a little bit, because I did play through Breath of the Wild in preparation for Tears of the Kingdom, and I think that was a mistake for my overall enjoyment.
Yeah, you may have over-Zelda'd yourself.
I over-Zelda'd myself.
The other Zelda game that I had the most fun playing, and it's not going to end up on your list like this, and that's fine. But I really liked, and my brain just blanked.
Oh, the 3DS one?
Yes.
Link Between Worlds?
Yeah, Link Between Worlds. Link Between Worlds was super cool to me, because they were like, we're going to take this 2D game, we're going to just make it way cooler. and a lot of people loved Super Nintendo. Like, Link to the Past.
Sure.
I just thought this was better Link to the Past.
I
Now,
mean,
there are a lot of people that think I'm just dead wrong, and that's fine. You don't have to agree with me.
I still
But
haven't played it, but I
had
should.
so much fun playing that, and it was portable, which, before the Switch, a game that good on the 3DS was super special to me because I could throw it in my bag and take it with me when I was going places.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're getting up to the top of this list here now. So this means so that was my number 3, your number
4.
4?
Yes.
So what do you got at 3 then?
Number 3 for me is it's such a good game. It's such a good game. I put about 135 hours into this game.
I think I know what game it is because it's my number 2.
It is Octopath Traveler 2.
Yep.
Octopath Traveler 2 is my number 3 game of the year.
My number 2.
Man, talk about a year for sequels and remakes, huh?
Yeah, they're just killing it.
Absolutely killing it. Octopath Traveler 2, the sequel to Octopath Traveler, of course, available on most modern platforms, is a game where you get to play as 8 different characters in a pretty traditional RPG, like JRPG style game, with different classes and different worlds, right? Or like different like locations, locales. And it took everything that Octopath 1 built, fine-tuned it, made it a little bit better, made it a lot more cohesive, and just turned this 2.5D adventure into just something so magical and so fun, and really had one of the better turn-based battle mechanics that I've ever seen. It basically said, hey, Bravely Default, what if you were even gooder?
Hey, Bravely Default, what if you were a game that Matt actually wanted to play?
That's not fair to Bravely Default. Bravely Default was pretty fun.
I couldn't stand the voice acting. It just that shut me out of the game. I was playing it. I was like, this game is so sick. And then I had Fedora Man, and I was like, no.
Wait, no, Fedora Man in Octopath Traveler 2 is goated. Incredibly goated.
I don't know how to explain this. I
say thank you
thought about this
kindly,
game so much.
unironically now.
Octopath 2, when I finished playing that game, I did all 8 stories. I did everything except for the optional final boss because I had already beaten spoilers. I had already beaten it in the previous game. And I was like, I'm not doing the same fight again. The only thing that I can't do now is just have broken Rune Lord Tressa, but I don't care. Whatever. Or Rune Master, whatever the class was. But you know what I mean. Like 5 trillion side steps later. But everything else, like, oh, hold on. Already. There we go. Everything else about it was just like perfect. All the extra bosses, the cohesive story that actually linked up together at the end. In the first game, the stories did not link up well.
Correct.
And it just, like, I loved Octopath 1, but everybody else that was like, this is a flaw in the game, like, I was able to look past it because after doing the hidden final boss in the first game, the story connects a lot more.
Right.
But if you're only going to connect it at the very, very end, that is terrible storytelling.
Right. Whereas...
Octopath 2 just nails it. And when you have the whole gang together at the end, and you don't hate any of the characters, because the most annoying character is actually not that bad.
Right. There really wasn't a character in this game that I thought was like not just like a standalone good. But also this game adds a lot of 2-character stories where, like, you know, they'll go off and do their own little adventure that gives them a little bit more connection between the characters that was, you know, missing in a big way from the first game. So you have these player-to-player interactions, and you have these incredible you know, little just like conversations between characters that are so funny and give you such a good sense of just like, man, this is a set of characters that actually know each other, that actually have something to do with each other, and they really just do a phenomenal job of making the world feel much more alive than the first
Yeah.
game.
Yeah. Oh man. Okay, so the number of times in the story for Octopath 2 where I was like, this is gonna happen, and then it started to happen, and then it was like, what plot twist?
Right.
That didn't happen in the first game ever. There were like 4 distinct moments where I predicted a thing was gonna happen, and then it started happening, and they're like, psych!
Right.
It just, it was amazing. It was so good. It was so good.
Plus, I think they did such a good job. Even I think the way they tweaked the classes were really just well done. They made it so characters didn't become just super overpowered. Even later in the game, it's like there aren't characters that are incredibly OP like in the original game, and also
True.
just the locations in general. Uh, in Octopath Traveler 2 are just so much more varied than they were in Octopath Traveler
Yes,
1.
they mixed and matched the pieces so that you had to use more of the characters if you wanted to get certain things. But every character had a thing that made them super useful.
Right.
All
And
right, there's a thing I wanted to do.
yeah.
You can say no.
All right. All right.
I didn't want to tell you before because I was afraid you were going to say no. Now you're on the spot.
I'm already saying yes.
Rate the characters. Who are your favorite characters?
In
My favorite characters in order. In order, I would say it was Temenos, Particio, Casti, and in fourth place, I feel like it's got to be Throne, just because her story is so tragic, but she's so good.
Sure.
But notice, my least favorite character in the game is probably Hikari, and I liked Hikari's story, and he was like my main character.
Yeah, Hikari is great. Hikari
So like
was
when
my
your
main
worst
as
character
well.
on your list is like I actually like them still though. Oswald's story was insane. But anyways, what are your top 4 if you had to pick 4?
If my top 4, I would probably go. I'm pulling up just a list of the characters. Top 4 in no particular order. My top 4 characters are Particio, just because I think Particio is just here to defeat the devil known as capitalism, and
Also,
I can stand with that.
his quotes for the machines, if you give him the what's the name of the class where the inventor, the
Inventor class, yeah. So good.
Catapult, go, go, go.
The voice acting that happens like on battle screens between the characters, where like I don't even remember. It's been so long since I played.
Nice
But like,
shot, Agnia.
right, like Particio would just like
you're a star,
throw
Agnia.
random compliments to like the other characters, and I love it so much.
That was something they needed in the first game, and they nailed it in the second one. And that's why,
Oh, yeah.
that's why any other year that would have been my game of the year. It is literally my second most favorite RPG of all time.
Right.
It beat Mario RPG. Do you understand how insane a game has to be for it to beat Mario RPG? For me,
Yeah, I mean like
oh.
my top 4, I really was splitting hairs here. Like
Yeah,
they're all like
4 number
A's.
1.
They're all like, 9 out of 10 level games. But in the rest of my top 4, Particio's in there, Temenos is in there for sure. Temenos may have been my favorite character in the game. Let's see. I thought Throne
story was
Throne
just
was
amazing.
just
Also,
tragic. Throne was just super tragic. And then I don't know. I'm a Hikari stan. Give me Hikari, but maybe I mean like Agnia was really cute. Like she had like a nice feel good story. Oswald was like your classic like revenge tale. That got
but
like,
it was so good because like he fought for his daughter.
There were some moments that really made you like well up there.
Hikari's true villain really threw me
Yeah.
for a loop.
Yeah, that
All
was
I'm gonna say,
insane.
I was not expecting that.
But like it is just such a good game, and you know, really recommend playing it through. I don't think it is necessary to beat the secret boss in this game, but
No. Well, there's two
unless
though. There's two secret bosses. The first one, yes. The secret boss,
right,
no.
the secret boss, if you haven't played Octopath 1, I would say why not go for it. I mean, I beat the secret boss because I was just like, well, it's the only thing I haven't done yet, so let me do it. By the way,
Oh
some of
no.
the
Too
boss
much
fights
effort.
are just genuinely really hard, including the secret boss. Just
No, but like you can do a strategy that is like the strategy
right,
and just get dunked on, even if you're doing the right thing.
correct. Oh yeah, like there's a lot of like
It's like
RNG
it's
that's
legitimately unfair.
it is not
Conveniently, it's the only part of the game I didn't like.
right.
Um, so skipping that was not a problem for me because I 100%ed everything else about the game. It was
Yeah,
that one fight is the only thing I didn't do,
yeah.
and the game was just so good. Oh my
It's
god,
like the pixel art is absolutely gorgeous. The music is so incredible.
yes, it is. Okay,
My,
if not for the number one game on my
yeah,
list, I would have said this is the best video game soundtrack of all time.
it is. Yeah, it is a very good
And now it's in
soundtrack.
second place because of my number one on the list.
So I think we have the same number one.
Well, hold on,
Yeah,
we didn't get to Smurping yet.
I know.
Okay,
That's why I'm saying we have the same number one, but let's talk about my number two,
okay, good.
which is your number four.
Yes, and it
Rude.
again, this is literally just like
This is because
drawing
you haven't
straws. Like,
completed the game yet.
these are 4 first place games.
Yes, in any other year, they'd probably be their respective number ones of their year.
Easily.
But Super Mario RPG Remake is maybe one of the best remakes of all time.
No,
Um,
it is. Like it is the best remake of
right.
all time.
It
Hold on. I have a prop.
my man has a prop.
Let's see.
So
There's just enough delay. Okay. What game am I playing right now, Bill?
you are playing. We're looking at your Switch for those on the audio form. We are looking at Babylon's Switch, and he is playing Super Mario RPG.
Right there. What's my icon? Oh right. All right, it's from Super Mario RPG.
My icon is the star from Super Mario RPG.
I know it's amazing.
I love it.
I am currently a golden statue in the castle right now. We about to get attacked by Dodo.
Um,
Tyler missed on that mini game, and he had to fight Dodo, and he panicked.
yeah,
He was like, "Wait, I'm gonna die!" And he was getting hit really hard by the. He's like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna die!" And then he didn't, and he was like,
the
"Oh
Dodo
my God,
fight is
died."
no joke, actually.
Yeah, at that part because it just deals so much damage.
Right.
This game fixed every single thing that I would have wanted.
It even
fixed.
fixed the
And
bogus
it fixed
frog
things
coin.
I didn't even know were broken.
How about the bogus frog coin at the beginning of the game? Secret box that
The
is
one that is there is nothing that you cannot go back and get later now.
right.
And it was that was the only one. The
Right.
only one in the first game.
Now, the beauty
It
of
was so
Super Mario
frustrating.
RPG is that it was dropped on us out of nowhere. And they were like, by the way, this is happening. And it was one of the most hype moments of our lives. Playing through the game.
I don't know if I'm ever going to get as hyped as I did during that.
Playing through the game, which, by the way, scored just so beautifully. The music for this game, the modernized soundtrack, is so well done. Just really just chef's kiss. They went all out. The fact that you can choose to listen to the original soundtrack instead of the modern soundtrack is just a nice touch.
Did you ever do it?
I did. There are some levels that I actually was like, I'm gonna do the OG soundtrack because some of the levels I think are
There
better
are
than the
like
OG.
2 points where I think I'm going to, but I told myself beforehand I'll probably switch over to the old one. And I didn't want to because the new music is amazing. There are some songs that are better in the remake. Like
I would say like
the
more than
overworld
half.
music.
The overworld music is incredible.
Like the map theme
talk
is
about
so
a
much
glow-up.
better than the original, and I love the original. It's so catchy.
It's
Yoko came out of retirement for this, and she was like, "Listen, if you're gonna make me do this, I'm gonna make it amazing." And she did.
He nailed
She
it.
added like a Kingdom Hearts sounding layer on the map, like overworld music.
Oh, it's
And
so well
it's
done.
freaking amazing. I leave it on the map sometimes just so I can listen to it.
It's just beautiful. I mean, like the visuals, they kept the isometric 2.5D, whatever you want to call it, view, and the battle systems feel just as comfortable as ever, if not like even faster paced, which
It is faster, objectively.
is
The one thing that bugged me at the beginning of the game was I
yeah.
was missing all my timed hits because of how fast the move started at the beginning.
But like honestly, like this game, if nothing else, like it respects the player's time. And
Hmm.
as a game that is a fully fledged RPG, the fact that this is a fully fledged RPG that you can like knock out of the park in 15 hours is one, insane, but two, just like a dedication to like how well designed this game is, that you can tell a story, explore a full world, and you know beat it in under 20 hours is just insane to me. Like it's the most efficient video game. Like it just does so much.
Yeah, it's impressive how much it does. And I haven't gotten to do this yet, but I stayed up late one night with my brother and sister. Um, Actually, I think Ty was there too, so it wasn't that late. Um, but I helped my brother with the second, like the redo fight on Booster,
Right.
and I love the fact that we came up with a different solution than you did.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the thing that was missing as an adult
Yeah.
when I went back and replayed Mario RPG, because it will be my favorite game forever
Right.
because of the nostalgia and the place it holds in my heart. Um, but it wasn't. I can see it wasn't the best game when you play it against games today because there were some things that were missing. One of those things was difficulty. Once you know how to fight those bosses, it's no longer difficult to play the game anymore. It's just easy. You know the sequence you're going to do going into the fight. You speed run it and it's done.
Right.
There's no sense of like urgency or like the Ganon backflipped oh crap moment.
Yeah.
You're just like, this is going to be a piece of cake. And then you redo those boss fights and you're like, oh
Right.
my
Because
god, I
so
got
the
just
I'm
steamrolled.
I'm gonna cut you off. So the game does, after you beat the main campaign, one of the big additions of the game, and I'm gonna just try to limit spoilers here, is that you get to basically refight most of the bosses in the game, and they all either have new gimmicks or are just like hilariously more difficult. And some of these boss battles are just genuinely no joke.
Some
And
of them are actually just puzzles too,
right,
where
a
it's
lot of
like,
them,
okay,
a
I
lot of
need
them
to
is
make
more
that one thing not happen.
right.
What are all of the ways I could make that not happen? And there's usually more than one way.
Right. I'm not
And
gonna
it's
lie.
great.
Booster absolutely just destroyed me the first time I played him.
My brother got dunked on by Booster like 10 times in a row. And then I ran over and I was helping. And then Tyler gave a suggestion. In between those two suggestions, we figured it out.
Nice.
But it took actual effort,
Punchinello
which
was no joke either.
the refight, I haven't seen the refight on that. I'm excited to get there.
It's
I still haven't
very
finished
interesting,
the game, but
but
I'm sure it'll be great.
oh yeah, it's pretty cool. Um, but yeah, like it's just a really well done remake. They added some cutscenes, and they just made it very sweet. I cried during the ending, because it just hit like a ton of bricks, and
Yeah, I'm not prepared for that to be done. I've been asking for this game since I was a small child.
yeah, I think all we can do is move on to our consensus number one game.
Yep.
And man, it is such a good game. It is so incredibly good. It
I have exactly one gripe, and I guess I have one and a half. But otherwise, the game is like a perfect game for me.
What is that game?
Sea of Stars.
Sea of Stars is just about as close to a modern masterpiece as you're gonna get. Uh, just it's so good. It's
This
so
game,
good.
in my opinion, like rivals Undertale And that is saying a lot.
I mean, the game is essentially a a love letter to all of the SNES era RPG games.
But there were like three in particular that if you so they had like an interview with Rainbow Dragon Eyes, Thierry, and a couple of the other people on the team
Mm-hmm.
that made it. A little documentary, a mini doc. And the games that they specifically referenced were Mario RPG, Chrono Trigger, and what was the third one? I don't think it was Secret of Mana. There was another RPG.
It
It might
almost
have been. I
feels
can't
like
remember if
there's
it was
like
Secret of
some
Mana.
Golden Sun thrown in there.
They did reference Golden Sun too. But I think the two major ones were Chrono Trigger and Mario RPG.
For sure. For sure.
And a list of things that they made. They had success with the Messenger, and then they were like, the game that we want to make, but we're not sure if we can make, is an RPG. So they made the Messenger because that was a game they thought they could make, and they thought they could get out the door, and they thought they could sell. And it was freaking amazing.
Awesome.
And then they were like, all right, we have a lot of success here. Cool. You know what? We're afraid that people are not going to want the RPG, the JRPG that we all want, but we all left our studios that we worked in previously to make this studio. This is our shot. We're going to do it. So they made a list of all the things that if they were playing a game, what was the list of things that they would want to have in the game that they made for them to play the game, which is a really smart way of doing it, because now they're like, what would I like to do that I could do? And they liked the break system from a bunch of modern RPGs, sort of like Octopath and stuff like that, where you have like the locks.
Right.
And they were like, all right, this is really good. Good system. It makes it so the combat isn't boring. You don't just hit the A button. The way they kept describing it was you can't just hit the A button. And they were like,
Right.
when you get strong enough, you can go back and beat the regular enemies just by mashing attack. But none of the real fights in the game can you beat that way.
Right. It's
And
all puzzle solving. You have to make sure that you're exploiting weaknesses and buying time and utilizing all of your characters.
it makes all of your characters essential. And they do the same thing that you can in Super Mario RPG's Remake, where you can swap out characters mid-battle. And
You
you
have
have
to.
to know all of the moves your characters have. You have to be prepared and plan it in a way sort of like Octopath Traveler with breaking, where you have to set your turns up like, all right, I want to make sure I end on this character breaking these locks this way.
Right.
Because I'm gonna unload on the next turn, basically. So
And
how do I set this up?
I love the way they handle the turns in this game too. So instead of having like a speed stat essentially dictate the order of which characters play, enemies all have a countdown timer on them, and every time one of your characters performs an action, the timers count down by 1. Now the thing is, you can have your characters perform an action essentially in any order,
Right.
for the 3 of them, and then that order resets once all 3 of those characters have performed an action. So you can theoretically have some characters attack twice in a row if order dictates.
Right.
But
And
you want to.
since you can do multi-attacks, you can get really clever. And you can be like, I really want to do an attack that's I want to use the attack that's for, Zale and Lyra. So I need them out together. On the next one, though, I want to use, whatever other character in their multi-attack with Zale or whatever. And you can sequence adding and removing characters from the party
Right.
in order to make different attacks pop out. And because of that, it makes the planning deeper.
Right. And
which is cool
mm-hmm.
because the multi-attacks breaking different types of locks and using different types of attacks and having different meters that charge up different types of attacks. There's enough play in there
Right.
where when you master the system, you can get through fights consistently, but with effort.
Right. And they even as you get closer to the end of the game, no battles feel like you are at an unfair advantage per se. There's almost always an answer for just about everything, unless the game is like you're not supposed to have an answer for X, Y, or Z, which does happen sometimes.
Except with one little kick.
There's one character who has an ability that basically you can attack an enemy, and this works on bosses as well, where you do an attack and it essentially stops their clock for 2 turns or for 2 actions. It buys you an extra 2 actions. So if their clock only had 1 on it, it would get kicked up to 3, and you'd be able to do some more shenanigans. So you could theoretically do like back-to-back kicks, but the kick does.
There were a lot of fights where I would stagger them by saving their attack for last, and then delay, and then start the next turn with that, and then delay.
Right, and the kicks do take a lot of like MP, so you do have to plan accordingly.
Yeah, you burn through it fast if you do that.
You do burn really fast. MP is a very, very fickle resource in the game, so you have to use a lot of your stuff wisely, and you don't have a lot of items. And you know, this is a turn-based RPG, so you got to plan out accordingly.
Yeah.
But like other things about this game, like the storytelling is just incredible.
I cried during the story.
Multiple times.
Man,
did
Carl,
I shed tears.
Best character ever.
Garl, my boy. We love Garl in this house.
The warrior cook.
The goat. But like the locations that you visit, the music in the game is just so beautifully done and incorporated into all of these worlds. And you know, this is another game. I mentioned this with Mario RPG, where like it's a game that respects your time. I truly believe that Sea of Stars is very similar. It is on like the medium length for an RPG. Like probably if you're not 100%ing it, you're like in the 40-hour ballpark. If you are 100%ing it, probably closer to 60 hours. But you know, the game does respect your time. It doesn't require you to do a lot of grinding. And there are a lot of I think they're called amulets in the game, or totems or something.
No, they're the amulets, I think. Or relics. They're called relics.
Relics. So there's these things called relics in the game, and they basically act as almost difficulty sliders. They don't lock you out of any achievements, but they add certain things. Like some of them are, you know, you gain a little bit extra money after battles, or gain a little bit extra experience after battles, just so you're not wasting your time doing grinding stuff.
Or heal after each battle.
All right, healing after each battle, because you can just run 3 screens back to a campfire, or you could just keep going through.
Right.
And like I used that one just because it did it for everything except for boss battles, which made sense to me. And it was just you know, a really concise experience where you were just moving forward the whole time. And it was just a beautiful game. Like, my girlfriend does not like pixel art games, and she thought Sea of Stars was.
Yeah, I mean, the animation in the game was amazing. They were really good in the messenger, and they just got better.
Yeah.
They created a unique dynamic lighting system, and I think part of why the game was so beautiful is because the colors that they're using are vibrant colors.
Yeah.
But they only are vibrant in light. If it's dark, they're not gonna, you know, be as bright.
Sure.
They worked with some software engineers that worked specifically on dynamic lighting. If you look in the credits, like one of the game companies that's listed, their thing is lighting. So they created their own lighting system because they were like, we're making a game about the sun and moon. We have to have, like, the lighting has to be perfect, and we have to control it for part of the stuff in the story.
Right.
And to get through levels. So if we don't get this right, then what are we even doing? Why are we doing this if we can't do it right?
Yeah.
And they did. Great.
So
Great game. They
so good.
got Mitsuda back from Chrono Trigger.
That was an insane pull.
Like the song for Coral Capers, aka Respite of the Day or whatever, is quite
So
possibly one of the most beautiful video game songs I've ever heard in my entire life.
it's
Not the most
incredible.
beautiful song I've ever heard in a video game.
The whole game is worth playing. It's available everywhere, and
Just go play it. You have to.
Yeah, it's like a $30 game. Like it is an inexpensive game, and it is
the indie game of the year too.
it won indie game of the year at the VGAs, and it's probably one of, if not the best, like bang for your buck modern video games out there. You know, just
Yep.
cannot recommend it enough. It is so good. You have to just go play it. It's both of our game of the year.
And there's so much other stuff that we haven't even talked about in the game. The characters, the writing is funny. You've got
So charming.
The game wheels that's in it is amazing.
Yeah, the minigame is so good.
I don't think this is a spoiler. If you can make it through and find everything in the game, have fun with the quiz show. I mean, there's so many things.
The quiz show, there's a secret ending.
Yes, the way they handled that was quite possibly the first ending was kind of disappointing. The second ending, there's a little bit of confusion, so like that's a gripe that some people have.
I thought the true ending was incredible.
The true ending felt much better.
Yeah, it felt awesome.
And once you get it and you actually do it properly, you're just sitting there like I don't know how to. It was a very peaceful, like happy feeling.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of that in life sometimes. And then I felt that after doing that. I was like, this is amazing. You told me. I was playing through it and I was like, I think this might be my second favorite game of the year. I think Octopath, there's just, is like, this is probably my favorite RPG of all time. And then you're like, no, it's going to be Sea of Stars.
I
was like, no, it's not.
Literally
it's
told
Octopath.
you before you even started playing the game. I said, this game is going to be your favorite game of the year. Guaranteed.
It didn't hurt that we're in the game.
Right. We both kickstarted the game.
I mean. We're not like main characters or anything, but we have like because we were backers of the game, we're in that one spot.
You can find there's a spot in the game where there's an area that recognizes everybody who kickstarted the game. So we're both just in the game, no biggie. But we are the reason that Sea of Stars is here. And you're welcome.
Yes, exactly.
Stupid. But yeah, that was our top 10 games. There's a couple of other like end of year topics that I wanted to kind of cover with you. Just to kind of
slightly more rapid fire because we gave that a lot of time.
Yeah, let's rapid fire. What are some of your biggest disappointments of 2023 in gaming?
Would that be like a wag of the finger kind of scenario?
It can be a wag of the finger, or it can be its own separate thing. I kind of had a disappointment that was its own separate thing. But
I'll hear yours and then I'll respond.
So my biggest and by biggest disappointment, I mean like which game did I play that I ended up just like not liking despite
I already know where this is going. I'm just gonna second what you're saying because I as a spectator felt this.
2 games that really I thought I was gonna enjoy more than I did. The first game, which we don't have to spend much time at all on, is Diablo 4. Didn't click with me. Wasn't for me. Didn't love it. The game was a little boring, a little stale in my opinion. But the game that really like I was excited for and ended up quitting about 20 hours in, and like man, just really let me down was Starfield. Starfield was a big bummer for me.
And a lot of other people. 10 out of 10, Jakey, and Jakey's agree with you.
That's an incredible video, by the way. The Naked Jakey video on Starfield is so well done. Go check it out if you haven't. But yeah, Starfield, man, what a letdown. Kind of a bummer of a game. Are there any games that you played that you
let me take
you liked
a look.
more?
I need to see when this game was released. Was it this year?
I mean, if you played it for the first
No,
time this year,
no, it was last year.
well,
The disappointment for me was like not caring about this and its DLC and added characters and stuff. But it was technically last year.
what's that?
The Mario Strikers Battle League was just a massive disappointment.
Yeah, that's kind of a letdown.
Um, but yeah, I had a lot less disappointments this year than I did in previous years. Honestly, like I guess one thing that was disappointing was Advance Wars got delayed so much that I didn't end up playing it. I have
Right.
it and I didn't end up playing it.
It ended up coming out in like April of this year.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna stop playing Tears of the Kingdom to do that. Like I was 100% on board with that.
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
came out like 2
another,
weeks.
you know what? Here's another disappointment. Hogwarts Legacy should have been a game that I loved, but J.K. Rowling is a disappointment.
That's valid. That's
I didn't play
incredibly
it
fair.
because of J.K. Rowling, and that's a disappointment. You want to talk about disappointment? Jeez, that's a disappointment.
Yeah.
I love Harry Potter stuff, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. The only other one is Fire Emblem Engage. Apparently, was like an absolutely amazing game from a game design standpoint, but I could not deal with Colgate Crest toothpaste characters.
Why not? It's peak character design.
Bill, I know that this is going to be something you enjoy because I am complaining about Fire Emblem,
Let's
which is
go.
something that you don't get to experience very often.
Oh, I get to complain about Fire Emblem every day.
I know, and I have been trying to convert you to enjoying it for literally a decade.
At least.
Starting with Donnell.
Listen, Donnell almost got me, but
So close.
slipped through my
No,
fingers.
it's just I don't know what it is. It's like Fire Emblem can't get the gameplay and the story and characters, like on the Switch at least.
Yeah.
I loved Three Houses, but the fact that there was only one of the possible paths that actually gets you a real storyline,
Sure.
and the others are just like, and everybody died except for them. The end. Like that was bad. And then in this, they were like, got it, we're gonna nail the gameplay this time because people complained that the weapon system was broken and nothing mattered anymore. And then they were like, here's your main character. Is that a toothpaste tube in their hair?
Yeah, boy.
Yeah. I don't know. I've never had something like that pop up where it was like, by the way, you don't want to play this game now. And I just sat there and I was like, I'm not buying this game. And that's not normal for me. I buy all the Fire Emblem games.
Right.
I was just like, I just can't. I don't think I can do it. And I was looking at it and then looking at the other games I was going to play. And I was like, do I really want to take up a slot with Colgate? And I was like, no, we save that for the morning and night when I brush my teeth.
That's it.
Yeah, that was weird. But yeah, no, that was probably the only real like disappointment is the fact that there were just a
Fair.
couple games that I wanted to play and couldn't bring myself to play. I mean, that and Silksong not existing yet.
The fact that we still don't have any information on Silksong might low key be the biggest disappointment. Because
Yeah,
Hollow Knight was so
I'm
good.
excited for that for next year, for example, if it actually happens.
Yeah, like
Who
at
knows?
this rate.
It was supposed to be on Game Pass this year.
Yeah, no, and we've got what 2 weeks left of the year, not even exactly 2 weeks. Yeah, it's not happening.
It's not happening.
Can't wait for Team Cherry to drop on December 31st saying, by the way, Silksong is out now.
That would be bonkers.
It would be bonkers. Yeah. And let's wrap up this year by talking about maybe just a couple of games that we're excited for next year. Just like a couple of one-liners. What are your top 5 games that you're excited for?
Oh, geez. I have to take this long list and break it into top 5. All right.
Yeah, 5 games.
Let's see. Already beat all the Splatoon 3 stuff, but I'm really excited to play the DLC Side Order.
Oh, Side Order looks good, yeah.
That looks super fun. Born of Bread I have now, but I'm not going to really play until break, so I will effectively be playing it next year. So that. Hades 2 when it comes out, I'm going to probably lose a lot of hours in sleep.
Oh yeah.
Thousand Year Door remake, I will literally cry. Tears of joy. Both of my kids are excited for that.
So pumped.
And I guess for 5,
Yeah.
I'm excited to see how Rivals of Ether 2 does. Rivals of Ether 2 is going to be sick.
Okay.
Hopefully it's gets enough exposure where we can finally deal with not Nintendo and Smash Ultimate anymore. With an
Right.
honorable mention to Rugrats Adventure in Gameland because that looks sick.
It looks adorable and hilarious.
Yeah, what about you?
So a lot of the games that you mentioned are already on my list, but 3 that you didn't mention that look like they could be really interesting is Little Nightmares 3. Looks like it could
I
be a
didn't even
lot
know
of
that was
fun.
happening.
Also, I really want to make a point this year to start playing the Yakuza series.
Those games look sick. They
It
have some of
looks
the
like
coolest music
so
ever.
much freaking fun. So I do have Yakuza 0 downloaded. So I can't wait to dive into that. But Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth looks like an absolutely bonkers video game.
I know Bubble like that.
So it looks like it's going to be just such a fun time. And then the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth that's coming out this year should be awesome. I've been playing Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade lately, and I've been having such a freaking good time going through that. So the Rebirth looks like it's going to be raw. And yeah, those are like the big ones on my list besides the ones that you already mentioned. Now, I want to give this show a tip of the hat for coming back. Games of Our Lives
job,
podcast.
show.
Tip of the hat. Welcome back.
Well done.
Listen, we got another episode in the year of our Lord 2023. Not too shabby.
Starting and ending the year strong.
Listen, it's already a top 10 episode of the year, so
I'd say it's even top 3.
it might be top 3. It might be top 2. I'd have to go back and look. But it's time for the segment that we all know and love called Tip of the Hat, Wag of the Finger. Let's start positive. Matt, what's the tip of the hat you have?
The Nintendo Switch library.
That is literally one of my tips of the hat is just I wrote Nintendo having a huge year on a console that's near its end.
Yeah, they basically were like, all right, guys, we've got a lot of stuff to drop. Consoles, hypothetically, at the end of its life.
Right.
Why not just dump all the money we've made into making this the craziest year ever? This was quite possibly the best year in gaming that I have experienced. I am an adult with a full-time job. I am married and have kids. We moved. Everything was crazy this year. And I have never had a better year in gaming.
Yeah, it's
which is insane because I did not have the most hours in gaming. It was just the best year in gaming.
The quality of video games that came out, like Pikmin 4 wasn't even in my top 10. And I beat that game.
Yeah, I mean, Pikmin 4 is my sister's favorite game of all time now.
I believe that. I mean,
It
Pikmin
also
4 was
probably didn't hurt that she got second to Shootone at the Coney Invitational for it, but you know.
true. But the game is great. And Nintendo's really just knocking it out of the park. Like,
yeah, they brought back Metroid.
Yep.
They sort of brought back F-Zero.
Yep.
Didn't even talk about that, but what the
yeah,
what?
F-Zero 99, insane. Also, like, you know, the Mario Kart Booster Course Pass, like the DLC
that was
for Mario
originally
Kart
on my list, and I took it off the list because I
is
just didn't
insane.
have space.
Yeah, like Nintendo just was killing it this year.
Yeah. What a year.
And, you know, and to piggyback onto that tip of the hat, I just wanted to like tip my hat to Gamefreak. Weird, I know. Just for like knowing how to handle Pokemon DLC.
Yes.
This is 2 generations in a row where the DLC could arguably be considered better than the base games. And I
haven't played the second one yet, but the second one looks better than the base game. The first one, I would argue, is on par with the first
fair.
part of it.
That's fair.
But that's really good because I had more fun playing this Pokemon game than like any other Pokemon game since I was a kid playing on a Game Boy
Yeah.
in Silver, which is actually insane.
Yeah, it's just like kudos. Kudos.
Also, they made Hydrapple, which is objectively like one of the best Pokemon ever.
Consider my hat tipped. Do you have any other tips of the hat, sir?
If my list was Nintendo Switch Library plus Hydrapple.
That's valid. I like how both of our tips were Nintendo and then Pokemon. Um Now, wags of the finger, sir.
We need two. There are two wags of the finger. One is a person, the other is the state of the world.
Yeah,
But
let's see our let's just do the person first because I think that's one of my wags as well.
Gerard,
Yeah. Yeah.
man, I
what a
listened to
bummer.
all your videos when I was painting, and I like got sucked into like how much you loved all these games and how you helped out Sea of Stars, and like you helped Sabotage Studios when they were new by like basically at PAX, the one that we were at, by the way,
Yeah.
along with PAX West, basically running around getting people to play the game, like helping them, and then being like, by the way, here's a bunch of charity money. Nope, just kidding. It's hiding.
Yep.
That hurt me because my sister and I raised money for the MS Society after my mom passed away.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I can't believe that he would actually do this. This can't be real.
Right.
It was a very big case of, but he's such a nice guy.
And that's, I mean, like, you hear that all too frequently, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
it's just a shame, really. It's just a real bummer because a
Feels
lot
bad,
of
man.
people did look up to him, and just sucks.
Yeah, one of my sister's friends like obsessed with him and is like grappling with that now because she went to like all of his live shows.
Yeah, that's absolutely brutal. My other wag of the finger is the concept of the march of time and how many video games exist. There's too many video games is my wag of the finger. For the amount of time, like, I have triple or quadruple the amount of free time that Battlon has. And I do not foresee me being able to complete all the games I want to complete. It's insane.
We've officially hit that point where just I don't even like consider games that would be maybe cool anymore
Sure.
because there's just that much stuff to play.
Right.
I don't replay games anymore
Rarely.
because there's just that much stuff to do. I only replay them if they remake them. So weirdly enough, hey guys, if you could remake Sea of Stars for me and Octopath 2, that would be great. So I can play those again.
Octopath 3 coming soon.
Octopath 2.01 just for Battlon.
I almost want to play Live a Live this year or Live Alive and just give you my thoughts to see if maybe it would be
played
worth
through
it.
about half of it. Ty played through about a third of it.
Was it just not for you?
It's so cool, but it's just not as cool as the other things around it.
Sure.
I'm happy that they remade it and they gave it a second breath,
Yeah.
second shot at life, so to speak, because it's cool, but
Yeah.
just not enough compared to everything else. The music is freaking amazing, though.
Yeah.
Weird, a game made by Square has good music? No way.
It's gorgeous too. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it looks amazing.
And your
Yeah.
wag of the finger?
I mean, other than the completionist, my other wag of the finger is the general state of video. What is going on right now, Bill?
We
Stop
had
copying me.
the best year in gaming, but like also the worst
Also
year
the
for
worst year
people
in gaming.
making the games.
Right. The general state of affairs, like the crunch that exists, like Pokemon Scarlet Violet should just objectively be the best Pokemon games ever, right?
Right.
Nope, you're not going to have a full team of people. We're going to operate on a skeleton team because for some reason we keep telling ourselves as a company that we are going to make games other than Pokemon and then not make those games and then not
Yep.
use those resources to make Pokemon. Like what? But also, like the number of layoffs that happened this year and the Activision garbage and all of the buyouts and the fact that everything is getting so much like the corporatization like video game bubble burst this year.
Yeah.
And it's really sad to now have negative feelings about my favorite hobby. To be like, oh man, there are these things that are just wrong. Like, I didn't play Hogwarts Legacy because of a person, not because of the game. The game
Right.
looks amazing.
Right. And like, I'm sure the devs put in a ton of work and
They
should
did.
be heralded for their hard work. But it's
Yeah,
like,
because the game is amazing.
but separating like art from the artist
It's hard,
it's hard. Really hard.
which is why I think it's a good idea that Sea of Stars did what they're doing with the
Completionist.
constructionist.
Yeah. Yeah. And moving the character or replacing I'm assuming the constructionist is just gonna have a new name and pixel, but
Yeah,
but
they'll probably change the art for the character
right.
and that I would imagine that's all they're gonna do.
That's
That's all they
fair.
need to do.
Right.
Maybe the animation so that he doesn't go like this and hold his hand up the same way.
Yeah.
So that was an homage.
But
But yeah,
wags all around.
so many wags.
Now before we sign off for the week, or however frequently for the year, I guess technically.
Yep.
What games have you been playing lately?
Mario RPG,
Yeah.
the remake is amazing. I'm going to be playing Born of Bread and the Indigo disc.
Yep.
Also been playing a lot of Pokemon trading card game with Ty.
Nice.
And weirdly, another game of the year that just happened for Ty is chess.
Like the game that's been around for 100 plus
Thousands
years.
of years. Yep, that one.
Okay.
Um,
Chess is
he
big
learned how
in
to
the
play chess,
zeitgeist.
and he was like, "I gotta play you, Dad." And I was like, "Do you?" And he picked a lot up very fast. Also, there's something special about teaching Ty how to play the card game
Mm-hmm.
and bringing him to events. Like, he learned how to play it a year or two ago, but
Yeah.
he didn't really play it a lot. And he wanted Pokemon cards. We'd get him Pokemon cards for like birthday or whatever.
Sure.
But he wouldn't use them. And I was like, I thought you wanted to learn how to play. And he was like, I already know how to play. And I'm like, I don't think you do. And then they updated the trading card game so it could be played on phones.
Right.
And he got really into playing on TCG Live.
Sure.
And then was like, this game is sick. I want to go play it with other people. And we built him a deck based off of Precon.
Mm-hmm.
We modded it to be sort of like an old top tier deck
Right.
because we could. Cards were cheap enough.
Sure.
And he went and played. That should also be a tip of the hat to Ty for getting so good at Pokemon trading card game.
That's sick.
And for being willing to take my advice but also disagree with me and make choices that resulted in him beating me at an event. We did a sealed pre-release for Pokemon, and I was like, you should probably use these cards. And he was like, I like these ones though. And I'm like, that's not going to be as consistent though. And he was like, all right, but I'm going to do it anyway. And then guess what the finals of that tournament was, Bill? We were both 0. We were the only 2 undefeated people in our pot of 8.
That's
and I
awesome.
had to play him. And he beat me. He beat me 2-1.
Dang.
Good job, Ty.
Jeez. That's awesome, man.
What have you been playing?
What
Other
have I
than,
been playing?
Starfield, your game of the year. Just kidding.
Let's see. I just recently finished Lost Kingdoms for the GameCube.
I've heard that was a really neat game.
It's made from the same guys who it's made by From Software. So it's truly the first Soulsborne that exists. No, it's like a deck building RPG where the cards have like it's almost like Sticker Star, but better.
And that's not a very high hurdle to clear.
Yeah, no, like think of it
This
as
is
like
coming from the guy that actually was uploading Sticker Star stuff.
but like
and
it's like
actually
Sticker
enjoyed
Star,
parts of the
but
game.
with the visuals of like Gauntlet Legends.
I'm looking at it now. This is It was interesting.
It is an interesting
Definitely
game.
GameCube era.
Yeah, it's very GameCube-y. The other game I've been playing is just the Final Fantasy VII remake. Uh, just with PlayStation Online or whatever, it's one of the free games. So I was like, all right, well, let's do that. And we've been playing some Final Fantasy VII remake, and hopefully I'll be done by the time the sequel drops. I'm about like 2/3 of the way through, but yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and I'm excited to play more. I'm gonna download Born of Bread literally the second this podcast is,
Good.
and I also have to play the Pokemon.
Yeah, I gotta go finish Smurpig.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, that's a must. But do you have any other closing thoughts?
No, I mean it's been a really crazy year,
Yeah,
but there was yet another year where video games were the best form of escapism, and it was impressive how many games had me feel all sorts of feelings. And I think that I was just impressed with how good this year was in terms of game quality.
yeah,
Like Sea of Stars, Octopath 2, Mario RPG Remake, uh, you know, Arvin's Mabostiff, playing games with Gianna like Return to Dreamland,
sure.
Being a hype man for Born of Bread, and then watching the game like actually get released, and then get released to positive response.
Yeah.
Little Gator game hitting me right in the heart. Like, it was this year was like a love letter to gaming. I don't know. It just it was really great.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Matt, for being here, being the co-host with the co-most, and thank you for sharing your experiences with the games of your lives. And listen, if you want to follow Battle-On, you can go. It's right on the screen right there. But for the audio listeners, you're
Wait,
gonna
am I
have
facing the right
to
way?
go
Wrong
to
way,
either
that way.
YouTube or Twitter.com/Battle-On. Go check them out. You can follow me at Bill the Fajita on Twitter and YouTube and Twitch as well. And if you want to follow the show, The Games of Our Lives, we upload this to an audio format that appears on both Apple and Spotify, as well as YouTube. So if you follow Games of Our Lives on YouTube or on any audio listening service that you have, it's there. We also interact with people on Instagram as well as Twitter. So go check us out there at Games of Our Pod. Games of Our Lives was taken on those, and I'm still a little butthurt about it, but it do be like that sometimes, you know?
I don't know. I think Games of Our Pod is perfect.
It makes sense, right?
I'm a fan of it. I mean, I'm also part of it, so I'm biased, but you know.
So yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. We can't wait to be bringing the show back and have more episodes soon. So thank you for listening, and we love you.
We'll also see you next time too.
Yeah, and we're gonna play the music for the outro too right now, just because I wanna.
Super Mario and Pokemon and all the games that took us to another place and made us wanna keep playing all night.
That's so good.
These are the games of our lives.
And shout out to Tony, the original co-host of this show, who wrote that song and performed it, and it is just beautiful. And
Forever the King, Ryo.